This video is on key message number 6, and it's practice and persistence are more important than speed. In one of the previous key messages in the video of 4 key messages, they talked about speed is not important in math. And I just want to emphasize that by talking about the fact that practice and persistence are important, and that we're going to kind of focus on making the most of homework. So first off, let's talk about the fact that math is like a foreign language. It has its own vocabulary. We use words like negative and positive and product, and if you don't understand the vocabulary, you don't have a very good understanding of math. So we'll be talking about vocabulary also. But it also takes practice, just like a foreign language. If I just listen and somebody kind of recites vocabulary to me, until I practice that, until I actually speak with people in the foreign language, I'm not going to learn the foreign language. It takes practice. And math is a skill subject, kind of like a sport. If I just watch somebody play basketball, or even they explain to me everything they're doing while they're playing basketball, I'm not going to learn to play basketball until I actually have a ball in my hand and practice dribbling and practice shooting. And you know that professional athletes practice a lot. Even if they're good at it, they keep practicing. Same with a musical instrument. If I see somebody play guitar, if I watch an instructional video on how to play guitar, if I don't actually pick up a guitar and play it, I'm not going to learn it. It takes practice. Same with mechanical skills. I can see somebody change a spark plug or read a manual on how to change a spark plug, but until I actually practice changing spark plugs, I'm not very good at it. It takes practice. And in college, math moves quickly. We have to cover everything. We can't get partway through the book and then say, oh, we don't have enough time, we're not going to cover it. And we cover everything in a semester, not in a year. So what would be covered in high school in a whole year, in college gets covered in a semester. So it goes really quickly. So if something's moving quickly, what do you need to do? You need to establish a workout program. So you need to set times and find times to practice. Talking about practice and homework, as I read these questions, I want you to just think of the first word that comes to mind to fill in the blank. If I was doing this in class, I would ask you to kind of shout out what you would put in the blank. So did you get your homework? And your homework? How much homework is? When is your homework? And I would guess most people said, did you get your homework done? Did you do your homework? How much homework is due, or how much homework is left? When is your homework due? All of these things kind of build the notion that homework is something to get done. You got to get it finished. You got to get it turned in on time, rather than thinking of it as a learning experience. And when I think back to my kids, I don't know if I ever said, what did you learn from your homework? I basically said, is your homework done? Do you have it ready to turn in? Rather than thinking of homework as something to learn from. So that attitude results in people rushing. Just want to get it done. I got so much homework to do. I got to get it done. So we rush through it. Or we just fill in answers. Okay, I've got all this homework to do. I'm just going to, first thing that comes to mind, I'm going to write it down. Even if you check your answers. So checking your answers in ALEKS, it will keep reminding you that you have to keep trying till you get it right. In a textbook class, all the answers to odd problems are in the back of the book. So some people don't even go back and fix their answers. Hopefully you are fixing your answers, looking in the back of the book, seeing if you get it right or wrong. But a lot of times what I see students do, they'll flip to the back of the book. Oh, it was negative 78, not positive 78. And they just go, oh yeah, I guess I just erased the negative sign. And they fix it without thinking, why was it negative 78 instead of positive 78? And some students just take whatever grade they get. I had students who just, in the textbook class, if they didn't get it done, they just didn't get it done and moved on. This attitude also leads to cheating. I mean, it's kind of classic to hear people say, can I copy your homework? Maybe not here, hopefully not here, but in TV shows and in school. Didn't get my homework done. Can I copy yours? which means we're looking at it as something just to get done, not something to learn from. So to make the most of homework and to actually learn from it, do check your answers as you go. So like I said, Alex will do that for you if you're doing homework in Alex. If you're doing it from a textbook, check your answers in the back of the book. And don't wait till you get the whole assignment done to check, because then you've done all those problems. It's potential that you've done all those problems wrong. So your brain has been processing wrong. So after you've done a few, check. If you're not getting them right, don't just keep going. Stop and figure it out. Also, show your work so you know how you got the answer. If you get to a point where you can't figure it out and then you go and ask for help from a tutor or your instructor, they're going to want to know, so what were you thinking? How did you get this answer? If you don't show your work in your homework, you're like, I don't know, that's just the answer I got, which isn't helpful. It's not helping you think about your thinking, which a lot of learning is about thinking about what you're thinking. If something's wrong, figure out what you were thinking that led you astray. So if you got negative 78 instead of positive 78, why? What were you thinking that gave you that sign? Because that's obviously what was wrong is the sign. Or if you just have a totally wrong answer, go back and look at what were you thinking and then figure out where your thinking went wrong. Note those things that led you astray. By note, I don't mean just think about it. I mean write it down. If you can't figure something out, use a question mark on your homework, a sticky note, a bright red star, some way to remind you that you want to ask about that. You want to get some help with it. And then be sure to ask, either at the beginning of next class, ask your instructor, or get on the online tutoring and talk to a tutor. Or if you have a friend or someone else who's good at math that's around, ask them. But don't just let it go. Ask so that you get help in figuring out how to do it correctly. When you've finished with a section of homework, write down important things to remember. If you are always getting something wrong for a specific reason, write that down. When you're finished with, say, adding integer section, and you've like, oh wow, now I finally get it, write down what is it that you get. Why are you now understanding it? If it's hard to get homework done, which for a lot of people it is, schedule small homework sessions spread over time rather than waiting until the last minute. So actually schedule your homework. Have times when you do it. And if a big homework section is overwhelming, just break it up and make sure you give yourself enough time to get it done. Use the Pomodoro technique, and that's just a very structured, you can Google this. I was going to put a video in, but I didn't want to have you watching too much. I want you to be able to work on your Math 97 work. You can Google it and get a description of it if you want. But what it is basically you just break your homework into small work sessions. You start a timer, actually a physical timer for, they suggest 20 minutes. If that seems like too much, start with 10. But you set a timer, you focus on your work while that timer is going. When it dings or when your computer tells you that, or your phone tells you that that time is up, you stop, you set the timer again for 5 minutes to take a 5-minute break. Give yourself a break, go do something, check social media, go get a drink of water, whatever, take a quick 5-minute break, then come back and set the timer again for 20 minutes. Work focused, take a break, and it's just a way to structure your time so that you have a break, but while you're working, you are really focusing. The idea is to start small and manageable, and as you develop more concentrated focus, as you get better at spending time doing math, you can extend the time you're practicing, but still give yourself a break. The other option that works for a lot of people is build in motivating rewards, something as simple as getting an M&M. So every time I finish 5 problems, I get an M&M. Every time I finish, and that's kind of what Pomodoro technique is about. Every time I've spent 20 minutes, I can check my social media. Build those things in to keep yourself motivated. A lot of people are motivated socially, so if you have a friend you can do homework with or someone to hold you accountable so that you have some sort of social connection connected with that. Basically, just get started. Don't look at the whole task, just look at a small piece. The first problem, the first three problems. Just start small. If looking at a whole textbook worth of problems is overwhelming, get some pieces of paper. Some people like get a piece of paper and cut a hole in it so that you can just see the one problem at a time. Other people have some like note cards to put around the other problems because sometimes that's distracting when you see all of it. So just look at the one problem. If you're in ALEKS, that's kind of how they do it for you, is they give you just one problem at a time instead of all of them at once. The other thing is create a mantra like, I can do this, as simple as that, or what works for a lot of people is something that reminds you why you're choosing to do the homework. So I had a student who she was taking an ALEKS class, so she did her homework on her computer. She had a little sticky note up in the corner that said, I am going to be a nurse. And just having that focus, she's going to be a nurse, so she's got to get through this class. So it motivated her. So at this point, what I'd like you to do is take a few minutes to think about how you go about doing homework. How do you typically do homework? And then what can you do to make the most of your homework? How can you apply some of these things so that you get more out of your homework and you really learn from it? So your assignment is going to be to write out and submit your plan for making the most of homework. And that's what you will submit for this assignment. If you have any questions about this or want to talk about it, feel free to get in touch with me. Or I'm sure Renita, your success coach, would be happy to talk about this with you also. But don't just do your homework, really learn from it.